Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of ONIT's Friday College Basketball Show. We had some huge upsets take place this week that we'll be looking back on while looking ahead to this weekend's games. Before we jump on into that though, please do hit that subscribe button if you haven't already and give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, as it does help us out as we produce more winter sports videos and start to roll into spring sports with baseball and softball getting underway once March Madness wraps up. We got a couple weeks left in the regular season, and if you're pulling any of these incredible cards, we can get you involved in one of our future shows. Just stick around to the end of the video and we'll tell you how to do that. We'll begin by taking a look at what's in our Friday college basketball box.
What's in the box?
Our Friday ONIT college basketball box features the locally sourced but nationally relevant headlines for all of our ONIT teams as we look at some big movers in the AP poll with upsets galore happening. We'll also look at the best men's and women's performance of the week and give you our 10 players to watch as we go into this weekend, and many teams are approaching their final week of games. We'll get into all of that, but beginning with making the grade, let's see who our Gem Mint 10 men's and women's players are for the week. Making the grade time as usual. We're looking at the best men's and women's performance from over this week. We had some really good performances to pick from this week. Made it super difficult, but we've settled on one of each, and we'll start on the men's side. Our men's Gem Mint 10 performer this week is Darius Acuff Jr. from the Arkansas Razorbacks. Even though Arkansas lost in double overtime against Alabama in what was a thrilling contest, Darius Acuff Jr. took his game that's already elite to another level. In this game, he played 50 minutes, scored 49 points on 16 of 27 shooting, including 6 of 10 from 3, and he made 11 out of 12 free throws, while also getting 5 rebounds and 5 assists. He shot well over 50% from the floor, exactly 60% from 3, and was an impressive 11 out of 12 from the free throw line, going over 90% at the line in the game. And in the 50 minutes on the court, he turned the ball over just one time. He did everything he could to try to get Arkansas to win this game in the double overtime thriller against Alabama. And for that reason, the time on the court, the new career high with 49 points, and the way he protected the basketball, there is nobody else more deserving of our Gem Mint 10 this week on the men's side. And on the women's side, our Gem Mint 10 performer comes to us from a timeless squad. This time, it's Fatmata Janeh from Texas A&M. In the Aggies' 82-74 upset win over the Tennessee Lady Vols, she was all over the court. 7 of 9 shooting, and she scored 17 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and also had a steal as the Aggies pulled off the upset on the road to earn their first ranked road victory since 2021. Janeh also went 2 of 3 from the three-point line, and she made 1 of her 2 free throws en route to those 17 points. She was the second highest scorer in the game for her team, and the only player on her team who pulled down more than 3 rebounds, finishing with 12. Huge game for her and the rest of the Aggies, and this performance with the 17 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists is why Fatmata Janeh is our Gem Mint 10 Player of the Week on the women's side. Let's jump on in now and take a look at some of these upcoming men's games this weekend, because we got a couple of really good ones. Let's talk men's games this week, because this is where we saw a shocking amount of upsets, and some teams are going to have to try to get back to where they were. Beginning with number 1 Michigan. No scaries for the number 1 team in the country, now 25-1, beating number 7 Purdue on the road 91-80. Michigan continues to roll outside of their slip up earlier this season against Wisconsin. This team has looked pretty unbeatable, and they're trying to continue that. But this may be the most difficult game that they've played all year. They are going out of conference in a Big Ten ACC matchup against number 3 Duke. This is a potential Final Four national championship type of game, and we are getting it here at the end of February. This is going to be an elite contest. A lot of talent on the floor, plenty of guys that we are going to see in the NBA in a very short time matching up in this one. And for Michigan and Duke, this is probably as good of a tune-up test that you could get going into your conference tournament and the NCAA tournament. It's one thing to play these games at the beginning of the year, but to play a game like this when you're 2 weeks away from going into your conference tournament to try to be the AQ from your conference, this is huge for both of these teams. Number 1 versus number 3. Definitely locking in for this game. It's on February 21st, so it'll be on Saturday. Keep your eyes on this one because it should be fireworks. Then we have number 5, UConn, a slip-up against Creighton at home as well, as UConn falls to 24-3, and they slip behind St. John's in the Big East standings. They'll try to get back on track on Saturday at Villanova. The Wildcats have been a very sneaky team. Villanova's a team that people are looking to out of the Big East as a potential bid stealer. They could make it in on the bubble, but there's also a chance that Villanova wins the Big East tournament. They're a team that's not that far removed from a national title. They go to the NCAA tournament quite often. They know what it takes. And so upsets over UConn and St. John's could see Villanova steal a bid here. And as they take on UConn at home, it is a scary place for UConn to be, especially after losing to Creighton. They have to try to refocus right away and get back up for this game on Saturday. Taking a look at number 7, Purdue, we mentioned their loss to Michigan. Great game. Only meeting between the two in the Big Ten this season, but Purdue's not able to get it done. They'll be back tonight, once again at home, taking on Indiana. Should be a much easier game for them, but Purdue's another team that's really going to have to rebound after that loss and just try to stay the course, steady the ship once again, and get ready for this Big Ten tournament. Then we have number 11, Gonzaga. No problem dismantling San Francisco on the road, 80-59. The Zags at 26-2 are really just waiting for that matchup against St. Mary's that they have to finish the season. That could potentially decide who wins the WCC regular season, as long as they do not slip up here against Pacific on Saturday. They're back home in the kennel. Pacific coming to town. Not a team that's very threatening in the conference at the moment for Gonzaga, so shouldn't be too much of a problem for them, but we thought the same thing against Portland. So keep your eyes on the Zags as they try to hold steady in the WCC here on Saturday. Then taking a look at Ohio State, a very big win, convincing as well, against number 24, Wisconsin, 86-69. Ohio State took care of Wisconsin. They're the only team that's been able to beat Michigan this year, and Ohio State just took them down. So a big resume-boosting win for them. Good confidence once again to go into the Big Ten tournament. And now another test on the road on the 22nd at Michigan State, number 15 team in the country. If Ohio State pulls this off back-to-back against Wisconsin and Michigan State, that will put the Big Ten on notice. Certainly Ohio State will feel very good about their chances of maybe being in the polls when the rankings come out on Monday if they put both of these wins back-to-back. But it shows them that they can compete and beat some of the top dogs in the Big Ten. So a game to keep your eye on there on the 22nd for sure for Ohio State, who's now 17-9. Then we have UCLA. They just lost at Michigan State, 82-59. They are 17-9. The losing skid for UCLA is still going. It's not going to be easy to snap on Saturday. Number 10, Illinois, is coming to Los Angeles. This is a tough team. Illinois just can beat you in so many different ways. Defensively, they really make you settle for mid-range jumpers. UCLA has been very streaky when it comes to knocking down the mid-range shots this year. And if Illinois forces them to settle, it's really just going to be a question of, is UCLA hot from the floor that day or not? But they need a win. They need multiple wins to get to the tournament at this point. I think the committee is not looking upon them favorably based on the up and down season that they've had and some of the head-scratching losses. So big game for UCLA. If they can get it done, would do wonders for their tournament hopes to go to the big dance. Then we have a ONIT versus ONIT matchup between one of our timeless only schools and number 9, Nebraska. Nebraska is another team that got upset this week. As you can see, it's a trend here, unfortunately, for some of our ranked squads. Number 9, Nebraska falling at Iowa 57-52. The offense was sputtering, stuck in the mud for the entirety of this game for the Huskers. They do get to go back home to Lincoln and try to figure things out here against the Penn State team that only has a couple of conference wins this season. But for Nebraska, after starting the year undefeated, the wheels have slowly been falling off in the latter half of the Big Ten schedule, and it's important for them to, once again, correct the mistakes, right the ship, get this thing turned around going into the most important part of the season, which is these final weeks in February into the conference tournament and then into the NCAA tournament, because they should, at this point, be a lock for the NCAA. Now we'll move on and take a look at the rest of our timeless only schools. Again, these are squads that are only available for men's and women's basketball through a timeless subscription, which can be purchased either monthly or annually on the ONIT Athlete website, onitathlete.com. And then you can look for timeless. You can find some of these teams and you will get packs, whether it's men's basketball, women's basketball, gymnastics, as spring sports start here, potentially softball, baseball, some of that stuff. You can find in your timeless subscription. We've got a whole page on the website dedicated to it, so go check it out, and it will give you a full breakdown if you're interested. We'll begin with number 20, Arkansas. We talked about Darius Acuff in making the grade. 117-115, double overtime. On the road at number 25, Alabama, just couldn't cross the bridge to get the win here. It was an amazing game. I mean, back and forth, buckets galore for both of these teams, but Arkansas just came up a little bit short in the loss to Alabama. Alabama's a really good team. There's so many loaded teams in that SEC, and the SEC tournament is going to be a dogfight because I don't think there's anybody who's necessarily head and shoulders above any of the other teams in the conference. And we saw that here in this scrap between Arkansas and Alabama. Opportunity to get right comes for them on Saturday against Missouri. Arkansas should have no problems dismantling Missouri. Missouri has not had the best basketball season this year, and Arkansas, as you saw, is hanging with one of the top 25 teams in the country, and Arkansas is a top 25 team in the country. So trying to avoid the upset on Saturday, while Auburn just lost on the road at Mississippi State, 91-85. Now 14-12 on the season. Bubble hopes were looking good for them a few weeks ago. Those have mostly collapsed at this point after losing to some unranked teams. Their next time out will be all at home in Auburn against Kentucky on Saturday. Then we have our two schools from Texas, beginning with the Texas Longhorns, 17-9. Their bubble hopes continue to increase every day. A win over LSU, 88-85. As some of these teams around them start to fall off the bubble, Texas is a team that's creeping into those seed lines. Could be a last four team in that gets sent to Dayton. Who knows? But if they keep up what they're doing, they'll definitely have a better chance than some of these other squads around them that keep losing games. Their next chance to get another win will be on the 21st on the road at Georgia, another team who hasn't had the greatest season in the SEC. Texas doing all right for themselves. If they can come through this one, again, they'll be one step closer to potentially punching their ticket, whether it's to Dayton or to the Field of 64 outright. So we'll see how that goes for Texas, while Texas A&M got a win narrowly over Ole Miss, 80-77. They are now 18-8. People are talking about them being on the bubble as well. They've got some tough losses. They have some tough wins. There's a lot of good things to like about this Texas A&M team, and they continue to just kind of tread water in the SEC, keeping themselves in the hunt, but they're not necessarily leading the race at the moment. They're on the road at Oklahoma on Saturday. Winnable game for sure. Need to have it. Gotta have it if you're Texas A&M. Again, to keep these bubble hopes alive. For some of these teams, what they've done earlier in the season has really force them into must-win scenarios, and all of these games are practically tournament games for them right now. So Texas and Texas A&M both in very similar veins when it comes to that, as A&M will be at Oklahoma on the 21st. Then lastly, we have West Virginia, our final timeless only squad and our final men's squad here. Lost at home 61-56 against Utah. Again, up and down season for the Mountaineers. Said that about a lot of our ONIT men's squads this year. Opportunity to pick up their next conference win at TCU on Saturday. Would like to get back on track, like we've said, for most of these teams. I sound like a broken record, but after losing to Utah at home in a game that they definitely wanted to win, should have probably won, now they go to TCU, need to pick up a win there. West Virginia's kind of bouncing around at 16-10. Bubble hopes seem like a long shot, so competing well at the end of the season and then maybe pulling off some type of upset in the Big 12 tournament, with Texas Tech losing JT Toppin for the year, with Arizona going through some struggles recently. There are vulnerable teams in the Big 12 right now. West Virginia has got to take advantage of that if they want to see their name called on Selection Sunday, and it starts on the 21st by beating TCU on the road. Lots of men's games to cover, but we've got some great women's games coming up as well. Let's take a look at them right now. Time for our women's games this weekend, starting off with a Big Ten battle. We're seeing a lot of good games out of the Big Ten. This week, it's USC on the road at number 10 Ohio State for our ONIT Women's Game of the Week. A matchup in the Big Ten there between the number 10 team in the country and a USC team that is on the bubble, as Ohio State gets to host the Trojans. Ohio State is trying to recover after losing to number 23 Minnesota on the road 74-61, while USC is coming off a win over Wisconsin 66-59. Ohio State's now 22-5 on the year. Teams have fallen around them, but with them losing to Minnesota, they're going to need a win over USC if they want to stay close to that top 10 when the polls come out on Monday. And for USC, this is a tournament cementing win if they could get it done on the road in Columbus. USC has been talked about nonstop about how they are on the bubble, and if they can win on the road at Ohio State against the number 10 team in the country, it would draw a lot of favor with the committee when it comes to Selection Sunday, when they look back at the teams that they will be matched up against and the records and the big wins and the big losses. This is definitely a game that could define the season for USC if they get it done. So Ohio State wanting a win to stay in the top 10, potentially improve their seed into the tournament. USC needing a win to more than likely make the tournament and help their bubble case. So two teams fighting for really opposite reasons in this game, but both of them want this win in a big way. Looking forward to this game. It's on the 22nd. It's our premier game in the Big Ten this week, with USC heading to Ohio State. Taking a look at the rest of our ONIT squads, we have number 1 UConn still undefeated. 83-69 at Villanova was no problem for the Huskies. They continue to pour it on in Big East Conference play. Next time out, they will be against Providence on the 22nd, back at home in Connecticut. Number 2, UCLA took care of Washington at home, 82-67, now 26-1 on the year. They will get Wisconsin. They also clinched a share of the Big Ten regular season title with that win over Washington. So the worst that they could finish is tied for first place, and they will finish the year in first place in some capacity in the Big Ten regular season. So UCLA has punched their ticket as the number 1 seed in the Big Ten, who may well be a number 1 seed going into the NCAA tournament, as long as they don't utterly collapse in their conference tournament. Then we have South Carolina 26-2, a win at number 25 Alabama 76-57, keeps South Carolina very much alive in the running to win the SEC. They currently lead the pack, and this win over Alabama helped them stay there. They got another tough game coming up on the 22nd. They will be taking on number 17 Ole Miss at home. Ole Miss beat Tennessee earlier on this week, and the Rebels are looking pretty strong. They're definitely a contender there in the SEC, a team to watch out for in the conference tournament. So this is a game that South Carolina cannot just look past. Then we have number 6 Michigan. Talked about them last time out, taking care of Michigan State 86-65. Another ranked game for the number 6 Wolverines. They're 22-4 on the year. They will be on the road at number 13 Iowa on Sunday. So another premier matchup in the Big Ten right there. It's just not an ONIT versus ONIT matchup, but it's number 6 versus number 13, a couple of very highly ranked teams. Michigan's really had no problem for a majority of the season with these teams in the Big Ten outside of UCLA. We'll see if Sunday is any different, but this is a really good Iowa team, and Michigan having to travel to go play them will be a challenge. So we'll see if Michigan can pull it out, but definitely a game to keep your eyes on as well there on Sunday. Then we have number 21 Tennessee, a tough week for the Lady Vols as they fall twice, down to 16-9 after losing to Ole Miss like I talked about. They come back last night and lose to Texas A&M in an upset loss, 82-74, the final in that game. And Tennessee will more than likely be outside of the top 25 on Monday after these 2 losses. They're trying to get back on track at number 11 Oklahoma. They want to put a stop to this losing streak, but going to Norman and playing one of the best teams in the country is not an easy way to do that. So Tennessee's got to find some type of resolve to get this thing back on track here. They should still make the NCAA tournament, but if they continue to lose, that can definitely come into question down the back stretch of this season. So Tennessee's definitely a team I have my eyes on here just because I want to see what they do and if they can rebound before the SEC tournament begins, and it starts on Sunday at number 11 Oklahoma. Then we have Nebraska. Their season has gone into a tailspin. We've talked about that. They are now 16-11, losing on the road at Oregon, 80-76. The losses continue to pile up for Nebraska, and a team that at one point this season, back in January, looked like a surefire NCAA tournament team. Now it looks like they will more than likely miss the tournament altogether. They'll go to Washington on Sunday. They need a win. They have to find a way to do it. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Nebraska has to stop this losing streak. They have to win out the rest of the season. They're going to have to win some games in the Big Ten tournament. Otherwise, they will not be going dancing in March. Taking a look at our timeless squads, we'll start off with a matchup between timeless-only schools. Like we said during the men's portion, if you're interested in getting women's basketball cards for these teams, head to the website onitathlete.com and grab yourself a timeless subscription. Either monthly or annual are your options. But a matchup between timeless schools sees Texas A&M staying home to take on Arkansas in an SEC contest. Arkansas is 11-17. They just lost by 30 points against number 4 Texas. Mentioned it wasn't going to be an easy game for them. It surely was not. And they are still trying to get that first SEC conference win. Trying to do so against a Texas A&M team that is on a pretty big high. They just won their first ranked road game since 2021 by beating Tennessee. Now they get to go back and take on Arkansas. So the Aggies will definitely be looking forward to that. They're now 11-11 on the season, so perfectly 500. Would love to get over 500 if they could get that win against Arkansas in the ONIT versus ONIT matchup. So that's another game that we will be watching very closely here at ONIT between two of our schools. Then, more timeless squads. Number 4, Texas. I mentioned that they beat Arkansas on the road. 93-62 was the final score of that game as Texas improves to 25-3 on the season. Should be an easier contest for them coming up this weekend. They will take on Mississippi State at home in Austin. Texas has been dicing their way through the SEC outside of the one game against South Carolina that wasn't even a conference game. So, and the one game against LSU. Either way, I digress. Mississippi State should be a pretty easy test for Texas. They were challenged by their head coach a couple of days ago. They responded nicely to that in the win over Arkansas. Can they keep that momentum up to close out the regular season is the question for the Longhorns. And then we have Auburn coming off a win at Missouri, 71-58. They get over the 500 hump at 14-13 and face a difficult test with number 24 Georgia coming to Auburn as they try to upset the Bulldogs in Auburn, Alabama. This game is on the 23rd, so it's a Monday contest that we'll be looking out for. It's a standalone game for us in terms of ONIT games. It's the only ONIT game that we have coming up this Monday on the women's side. So good opportunity to take a look at Auburn if you haven't seen them yet this season, as they try to upset Georgia and potentially cause some havoc in the mid-ranks of the SEC conference right now when it comes to seeding. And our final team is Penn State. We haven't seen them since they beat Northwestern 81-71 a week ago. But back in action here on Saturday at Rutgers, as they will be in New Jersey. 8-17 on the year, trying to get to 9 wins. Penn State's just trying to stack as many conference wins as possible right now and maybe pull an upset or two in the Big Ten tournament. That is what the Lady Lions season is looking at for the moment. And so trying to get a win against Rutgers would be their third conference win this season, after they picked up the second by beating Northwestern. So those are all our women's games this weekend. Looking forward to a bunch of them. Let me know down in the comments below what game you're looking forward to seeing this weekend. And now let's look at the players who are going to have an impact in these games with our players to watch. Here are our players to watch this week. We've got 10 names, 5 men, 5 women, as we go into an action-packed weekend of college basketball. One of the last weekends here that all of our teams will be playing. It's the penultimate weekend for that because we have some teams whose season comes to an end already next weekend. So let's get started here looking at Freddie DeLone, the 5th from Penn State. As Penn State goes into their game against number 9, Nebraska, they're going to need scoring. DeLone is the leading scorer for the team. If they're going to pull off this monumental upset, they're going to have to get a lot of scoring from a lot of different places. But Freddie DeLone, the 5th, is going to have to lead the charge. So that is why he is my number 1 player to watch this weekend, because Penn State is going to need him in a big, big way. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to be possible for them to beat this Nebraska team. Then we have Kara Dunn for USC, much in the same vein of DeLone, the 5th. USC needs scoring. Kara Dunn has been one of the most consistent scorers for the women of Troy this year as they take on number 10 Ohio State team that can put up points in bunches. USC is going to have to try to hang with them. Dunn is the player who I think will try to carry the load for USC on the offensive end, and if she can get hers, get 20 plus points, USC will have a chance in that game. So keeping my eye very tight on Kara Dunn this weekend. Then we have Price Sandfort for Nebraska as they take on Penn State, trying to rebound from that loss against Iowa. He is Nebraska's leading scorer, and again, I think points are going to be necessary in this game. And so Sandfort has a good game. Nebraska shouldn't have any problems getting back into the winning column, but if he struggles, it could make the difference for the Huskers in this game against Penn State. So watching him as well, just want to see if he can get the scoring touch going there. Then we have Nikira Pryor for Texas A&M. She was instrumental in the win over Tennessee, 22 points for her, trying to keep the momentum up as they go into that contest against Arkansas. Pryor's been playing really well this season, coming off that 22-point outing. Also had 10 assists. If she can score and pass the same way that she did against Tennessee, Texas A&M should have no problems winning that ball game. Then we have Braden Huff for Gonzaga, as Gonzaga looks to wrap up the WCC against Pacific. It's been Huff and Ike all season long who have led the charge for Gonzaga, and I'm not anticipating anything different in this home game against Pacific. So Braden Huff is one I'm keeping my eyes on for this weekend's game, as Gonzaga could, with a little bit of help, clinch the WCC regular season crown. Then we have Jelani Cambridge for Ohio State. Again, another leading scorer for their team. We've gone heavy on the big key players this week, but it's crunch time. These are the games that matter and win. Games matter a lot. You want your biggest performers to step up. That's exactly who Jelani Cambridge is for Ohio State. If they want to stop their slide, beat USC, and convince everyone that they should be a high seed in the NCAA tournament, it starts with Cambridge. So they will go as she goes. If she has a big game, Ohio State should be able to take care of their business against USC. Then we have Tyler Billadeo for UCLA. Somehow, some way, the Bruins have to get out of this losing streak. He is going to be the guy that's going to do it for them. Their leading scorer, big, important minutes against a number 10 Illinois team. When shooting matters, he's one of their best shooters. I talked about it earlier in the preview, but Illinois forces you to settle for a lot of mid-range twos. Billadeo is the guy for UCLA who converts those at a high clip. If he comes out and he is unconscious, UCLA could probably hang with Illinois. If he comes out and he is not finding the basket and he doesn't have his touch, it could be a very long day for the Bruins, like they've experienced in their last 2 games against Michigan and Michigan State. So he is a massive X factor in this game, and if he comes out knocking down shots on fire, UCLA will have a chance to stop their losing streak. Then we got Talia Jones for Arkansas, as Arkansas looks for their first conference victory. They're going to need to score some points against the Texas A&M team that we saw can score pretty easily. Jones, the leading scorer for this Arkansas team, she's going to have to take over the game for Arkansas if they want to win. She's been doing as much as she can and not getting a ton of support. She'll try to do that again, and then if she can just get a little bit of support from some other cast members there in Arkansas, there's the opportunity for the Razorbacks to get their first SEC win, but it all starts with Jones. Then we got Ade Mara for Michigan going into this game against number 3 Duke. As one of the primary ball handlers for Michigan, he's going to be under a ton of pressure from the swarming Blue Devil defense. His decision-making, more so than his scoring, I think is going to be the most impactful part of this game. He's one of the best decision-makers on that Michigan team. Always knows where to go with the ball, knows when to attack the basket, knows when to pull up and try to get his own, which he doesn't do too much off the dribble. But Mara and having the offense run through him in terms of vision and seeing the court against this Duke team that plays really strong defense is going to be imperative if Michigan wants to walk out of this game on Saturday with the victory. So Mara is the one I have circled for Michigan as their key player in that game. And lastly, we have Azzi Fudd from UConn. I don't know if she really needs much of an introduction. She has been carrying this UConn women's team throughout the year alongside Sarah Strong. Those two have just been backpacking for the Huskies as they remain undefeated at 28-0, trying to get to 29-0 against Providence. Azzi Fudd will once again be the player that the UConn offense runs through. Really, everything runs through her. She sees the floor really well. She plays good defense. She scores. She passes well. Just does everything right that a coach could ever possibly ask for. So Azzi Fudd is our last player to watch this weekend as we get into this final stretch of games in the regular season. That's all the time we have today. Lots of great players, lots of great games. Tell us who and what you're going to be watching this weekend down below. And if you're pulling any ONIT cards while you're watching these games, send them to us by using the link down below. You can submit your best hits, your nice autograph cards, your city limits, whatever you may be pulling and want to share with us. You can drop it in that link or go to the link in the description and upload your hits there. And we'll start a polls of the week here on the channel. That's how you can get involved. We appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please like and subscribe so you get more of our content in your YouTube feed. And we will be back with you on Tuesday to take a look at the final week of the college regular season on the women's side and for at least one of our men's teams. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good day, and we'll see you back here on Tuesday.